The challenges in life not only bring valuable lessons, but also open up opportunities for us to change, contribute, and do good for those around us. Let us know where you're watching from. Now, relax and enjoy this amazing story. The October morning in Newton, Massachusetts, brought with it the familiar autumn breeze that Bailey Carter so loved. At 67, she followed her routine with the same precision she had maintained during her 40 years as a teacher at Newton North High School. On that particular Tuesday, Bailey had her usual agenda. In the morning, she volunteered at the Newton Free Library. In the afternoon, there was a meeting of the events committee at Grace Episcopal Church. In Bailey's life, her only failure may have been that her son, Anthony, now 42, had always been her weak spot. Since childhood, he had been able to win her over with his charming smile and his flowery promises that he rarely kept. Anthony had called the night before. As usual, the conversation had been about money. 2 days later, Anthony came home. Bailey found it strange that her son didn't ask for money and even inquired about her health. Using work as an excuse, Anthony left that evening. A few days later, Bailey was preparing her breakfast when the doorbell rang. It was 7:30 a.m., too early for visits. Through the textured glass of the door, she distinguished two silhouettes, a man and a woman, both in dark suits. When she opened the door, they immediately identified themselves, badges in hand. Mrs. Carter, Agent Stevens and Rodriguez, Internal Revenue Service, Criminal Division. Bailey's world began to spin slightly. In her 67 years of life, she had never been on the wrong side of the law, not even a traffic ticket. "Can I see your identifications again, please?" The agents showed their IRS credentials and a search warrant signed by a federal judge. "Mrs. Carter, we need to search your residence. You are being investigated for tax evasion and financial fraud." Across the street, Charlotte Harris watched the scene unfold. As she walked Max, her fingers were already dialing the emergency number that Bailey had given her years ago. David, the Carter family lawyer. Inside the house, Bailey watched, dazed, as they rummaged through her impeccably organized home office, the place where she used to correct essays and plan literacy lessons. Documents she had never seen before were now stacked on her desk. David arrived quickly, but the situation only worsened. The agents found more documents at the bottom of a drawer, falsified statements, receipts for bank transfers to offshore accounts, all with Bailey's meticulously forged signature. On the day of the trial, Judge William G. Young's room 11 was packed. Bailey observed each face, wondering which one would seal her fate. But then came the moment Bailey feared the most. The prosecutor called her first witness. The prosecution calls Anthony Carter. A murmur rippled through the courtroom as Anthony entered, impeccably dressed in a gray Brooks Brothers suit. He avoided his mother's gaze as he took the oath. "Mr. Carter, when did you first become suspicious of your mother's activities?" Anthony cleared his throat, adjusting his tie. I noticed inconsistencies when I was helping with her finances. I didn't want to believe it at first." Bailey felt her heart break as she listened to her only son, her own flesh and blood, weave a web of lies so convincing that even she almost believed him. When it was her turn to testify, Bailey spoke with the clarity and dignity she had honed over 4 decades in the classroom. She denied all the accusations, explained her simple financial routine, and spoke about her years of service to the community. "Mrs. Carter, if you are as innocent as you claim, how do you explain these documents found in your own home, bearing your signature?" I had never seen those documents before the day I was arrested." "So you're suggesting someone planted them there? Perhaps an intruder with intimate knowledge of your finances and access to your home?" David objected, but the damage was done. Bailey saw doubt in the jury's eyes. Yes, Your Honor. In the case of the United States versus Bailey Carter, on all charges of tax fraud and money laundering, we find the defendant guilty. The judge's gavel hit like a gunshot. Bailey Elena Carter, this court sentences you to 5 years of imprisonment at the Federal Correctional Institution in Danbury, followed by 3 years of supervised release. In prison, Bailey found purpose in the library. With her teaching experience, she transformed the underfunded space into a learning center. Inmates who barely knew how to read, when they arrived, were now devouring books. Bailey's first morning as a free woman began at 5:47, when the Connecticut sun was still just a promise on the horizon. After 1,826 days, she crossed the gate of the Federal Correctional Institution in Danbury for the last time, carrying a plastic bag with her few belongings and 5 years of memories she would prefer to forget. A week after her release, the Boston Globe published a small notice. Retired Newton teacher faces health issues. Bailey Carter, 72, locally known for her volunteer work and recently released after serving a sentence for tax fraud, was seen making frequent visits to Massachusetts General Hospital in San Francisco. Anthony frowned as he read the news forwarded by a former colleague. Logan International Airport was bustling that Tuesday afternoon. Among the crowd, Anthony emerged from the terminal, pulling a designer suitcase and adjusting the collar of his Brooks Brothers shirt. His eyes scanned the arrivals hall, half expecting to see a familiar face. But there was no one. Of course, there was no one to greet him after 5 years. Bailey was in the garden when she heard the sound of tires in the driveway. Her heart leaped to her throat as she saw the familiar figure getting out of the car. Anthony? He looked older, thinner, with gray streaks at his temples that hadn't been there the last time she saw him. Their eyes met for a moment, 5 years of silence and hurt hanging between them. "Hi, Mom. I heard you weren't well." Bailey felt a wave of conflicting emotions. Joy at seeing her son, anger at the betrayal, and an overwhelming confusion about how to react. "I'm better now. Why don't you come in? I'll make some tea." The silence was palpable as Bailey prepared the tea, her movements mechanical, as if operating on autopilot. Anthony watched, noticing the small changes in his mother. "Mom, Anthony began, but was interrupted by the sound of the front door opening. "Bailey, I brought those documents you requested." David's voice filled the hallway, and soon the lawyer appeared in the kitchen doorway. His expression quickly shifted, from surprise to something more calculated upon seeing Anthony. "Anthony, what a pleasant surprise." Anthony abruptly stood up, the chair scraping against the kitchen floor. "What are you doing here?" "Just some post-release legal matters," David replied smoothly, placing his folder on the table. "Bailey, I didn't know we would have company. Should I come back another day?" "No, David, please stay. In fact, I think it's good that we're all here." "What are you talking about, Mom?" "Son, I spent 5 years trying to understand why. Why would you do that to me? What did I do wrong?" "Mom, you don't understand. I was desperate. The debts, the loan sharks." David, who had remained silent until then, leaned forward. "Anthony, before we continue this conversation, I think you should know that we have concrete evidence of what really happened." Anthony's face turned as white as the tablecloth. "What are you talking about?" Bailey looked at her son, tears in her eyes. "Anthony, this is your chance. Your chance to tell the truth, to make things right. Please don't waste it." Anthony looked from his mother to David. The clock on the wall ticked away the seconds, each tick echoing like a drum in Anthony's head. Finally he spoke, his voice barely a whisper. I'm sorry. Mom. I never meant for things to go this far." The community center hall was silent despite the dozens of people gathered there. Congregation members, former classmates of Bailey from Newton North High School, and even a few local reporters waited anxiously. In the center of the room, a large projection screen had been set up. Bailey Carter sat in the front row, her hands clasped in her lap, her face a mask of forced calm. Beside her, Charlotte Harris held her hand in silent support. Anthony, pale and visibly nervous, sat in a seat on the other side of the aisle, isolated. David entered the room, his presence commanding immediate attention. Behind him, 2 FBI agents in dark suits discreetly positioned themselves near the exits. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here today to rectify an injustice that has persisted for over 5 years, an injustice that robbed the freedom, reputation, and part of the life of an exemplary citizen of our community. What you will see today is the result of a meticulous investigation conducted over several years. I ask that you reserve your judgments until the end of the presentation. A murmur swept through the room. Anthony sank into his chair, his face in his hands. The presentation revealed bank statements, casino records, and most of all, a series of emails between Anthony and a known document forger. Bailey closed her eyes, the revelations hitting her like waves. Each new piece of evidence was a painful confirmation of what she had long suspected, but refused to fully believe. "But why?" a voice shouted from the back of the room. "Why do this to your own mother?" David looked at Anthony, giving him the chance to respond. After a moment of hesitation, Anthony stood up, visibly trembling. I was desperate. The debts, the threats. I thought I could fix everything before anyone found out. I never wanted her to go to prison. Anthony, I would have given everything I have to help you. Why didn't you come to me? Because I was ashamed of failing, of not being the son you deserved. The silence that followed was deafening. David cleared his throat, regaining control of the situation. Based on this evidence, we are filing a petition for a new trial. The U.S. Attorney's Office has already indicated that all charges against Bailey Carter will be dropped. A wave of applause erupted in the room, quickly silenced as the FBI agents approached Anthony. "Anthony Carter, you are under arrest for fraud, perjury, and obstruction of justice." As the agents read Anthony his Miranda rights, Bailey stood up, swaying slightly. "Wait." Bailey approached Anthony, who was now handcuffed. For a moment, mother and son locked eyes. 5 years of pain, betrayal, and regret passed between them in a single glance. "I forgive you, but now you need to face the consequences of your actions." Anthony nodded, unable to speak, as he was taken away. David then approached with one last document. In that moment, as the late afternoon sun streamed through the church's stained glass windows, painting the hall with vibrant colors, Bailey felt a weight lifted from her shoulders. Bailey transformed hardships into strength, always striving to help those around her, no matter the environment. The true legacy is the positive spiritual impact we leave on society. Are you ready to rise above adversity, just like Bailey did? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, give it a like and share it with others. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to hear more inspiring stories. Goodbye, and see you soon.